Thank you for that eerie silence that reached the mic. Thank you very much. What a warm Bethnal Green welcome that was. Just so you know what you're here to see, I'm Mary Bourke. This is called Mary Bourke, Who Cares? ? We did a lot of toing and froing with the punctuation. So what's going to happen is there'll be a lot of people, myself included, telling their stories about what it's like to be a carer. So people will be coming off and on all night. Because this is the BBC, I have to give you a trigger warning before the show starts. So if you're offended by anything you've seen here this evening, please feel free to take your complaint to the Comedy Ombudsman, where it'll be adjudicated by a panel consisting of an Englishman, an Irish, and a Scottish. I'm just going to warm you up. We'll do a little bit. Just to let you know, I'm kind of a fancy comedian. I did a gig with Liz Truss. Do you remember Liz Truss? She's Prime Minister for 49 days, during which time she crashed the economy and she killed the Queen. Do you remember that particular Liz Truss? Yeah. And my favourite part of the election, well, there were two. The first was when she lost her safe seat in Norfolk, 50,000 majority, gone overnight. Didn't realise that was possible. Apparently it is. But the second favourite bit was when Nigel Farage was campaigning in Clacton for a seat he eventually won. And he was campaigning outside of Wetherspoons, because what could be more Essex than that? And he got pelted with a vanilla milkshake, like head to toe coated in vanilla milkshake. And the next day, on the front cover of the Galway Advertiser, newspaper of record for the Galway metropolitan area, thank you, there was a picture of Nigel Farage with a face on him like a plasterer's radio. And the headline just said, "Lactose meats intolerance." Brilliant. They seem warmed up, Al, I'd say. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome all the way from over the Mr. Al Barry. And we are back. My grandmother came from Mayo, which is the west coast of Ireland. And they say if you don't like the weather in Mayo, just wait 5 minutes and then shoot yourself in the face. Because it's never going to stop raining. It's beautiful, but it's very bleak. And my grandmother lived to 103, which is an amazing age. And she was interviewed by Radio na Gaeltachta. And they said, you know, have you managed to live so long? Is it diet? Is it exercise? What's the secret to your longevity? So my grandmother leans into the mic and goes, "I have lived to 103 because God is punishing me." That is the salty ray of sunshine I'm descended from, ladies and gentlemen. My grandmother had two carers, both called Magda. And when she found out they came from a small village in Transylvania, she thought that was hilarious. She used to go, "They're very pale, aren't they, Mary? Very pale. Look at their faces, like a full moon through fog." And she refused to give them a house key because, in her words, "I've seen the films, you have to invite them in." The thing I loved about the Magdas was their brutal honesty. They said whatever they were thinking. Whatever they're thinking came straight out their mouth, which if you're Irish is deeply disconcerting. Because we never say what we mean, ever. Getting a cup of tea is a dance of seduction. You'll be asked 3 times, you refuse twice, except on the third. "Would you like a cup of tea?" "No, I'm fine, thank you." "Are you sure you don't want a cup of tea?" "No, I'm fine, thanks." "Ah, go on, have a nice cup of tea." "You like tea, don't you?" "Oh, okay, I'll have a cup of tea then." And then I moved to London and never got any tea. So thirsty. The Magdas had nicknames for everybody. We had a pharmacist who was a goth, big, tall, skinny thing, used to wear black all the time. So to his face, they used to call him Johnny Cash's walking stick. My grandmother went into hospital, and she's very nervous about going into hospital. And so when she went in, she devised her own do not resuscitate form, which is a legally binding document that's witnessed by her solicitor. So here it is. To whom it may concern, if I fall into a coma or persistent vegetative state, I request the following piece of music be played, as it has a particular resonance for me. So this is a song my Mayor grandmother once played if she falls into a deep, dark coma. If you play the British national anthem, and I do not leap out of my bed to turn it off, then I am indeed brain dead. No further attempt at resuscitation is required. I used to do that routine in Edinburgh at the Edinburgh Fringe, and at the end of every show, I get a phone call from one of the Magdas going, "Your grandmother wants to know, did her joke get a laugh or did it get an applause break?" And if it got applause break, she'd be thrilled with herself. The Magdas came to see me do stand-up comedy, and I was very nervous because I was convinced they were going to heckle. You know? But they didn't. They just sat there with faces on them like Easter Island statues. It was like I was doing a TED talk about the concept of comedy. There was just loads of empathetic nodding. I could see them thinking, "Oh, this is what they call a joke. It's a juxtaposition of two opposing ideas with metaphor, wordplay, and misdirection." Interesting. But here's the weird thing, they loved it. I know because they told me afterwards. They're like, "Oh, we really enjoyed your whimsical notions." In fact, we are still laughing now. Probably the most shocking side effect of my husband's stroke was not the physical disability, which he couldn't deal with, but the complete personality change. I think it's safe to say that for about a year and a half, my lovely, kind husband became an absolute antichrist. I think it's an absolute miracle I didn't murder him in his sleep. And I realised something was very wrong when he was on the stroke ward. Now, my husband was a big fan of Grand Designs. He's seen every single season, even the Australian ones that aren't very good. Now, if you've never seen Grand Designs, let me explain to you. You've got a very smug couple who've had to remortgage the summer house in Tuscany to pay for the refurb in the 17th century windmill. A lot of pressure, we can all empathise. Now, every episode is exactly the same. They run out of money, it's a really bad winter, they end up living in a caravan. And just when things are their absolute worst, Kev MacLeod, the presenter, pays a visit to the wife/project manager. And he gives her a bit of an pep talk, just to cheer her up. And then a month later, the wife/project manager finds out she's pregnant. Coincidence? My husband was convinced the reason there's so many pregnancies on Grand Designs was because of Kevin MacLeod. Dashing, debonair Kev MacLeod. He thought at the end of the show, all the wives should wear T-shirts that say, "I got ploughed by Kevin MacLeod." Because you know that's what happened. So I went to the stroke ward one morning, and instead of watching Grand Designs, he flicked on an episode of Mrs. Brown's Boys. And there's a bit where Mrs. Brown falls over and her wig falls off. And my husband started to laugh. I mean, really laugh, like a proper belly laugh. And I thought, my God, this brain damage is even worse than I thought. I'm married to a man who thinks that Mrs. Brown's Boys is funny. If you've never seen Mrs. Brown's Boys, it's comedy for people who clap on the plane lands. And if you didn't laugh at that joke, you probably do clap on the plane lands. I don't think about your sordid little lives. Probably the worst part of that year was what I call his Captain Picard phase, where he would just bark orders at me. No, please, no, thank you. Just this endless barrage of orders. It's like he was on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. Just this endless barrage of orders. I realise it's Starfleet. There's no need to tweet me after the gig. You can set your nerd face to stun. And I think the most heartbreaking thing was he stopped being funny, which, if you're a comedian, is just the worst thing that can possibly happen. Then about a year and a half in, a miracle happened. One morning, he asked to see an episode of Grand Designs. And I put it on, and he watched it. He didn't say anything. Watched for about 20 minutes, didn't say anything. And then, just as I was about to walk out the door, all I heard was, Kevin just smiled at one of the wives. She's going to be pregnant by the next ad break. You're a dirty little man, Kevin MacLeod. You're a dirty, dirty little man. And then he says, you know what, Mayor? I was thinking of pitching a show to Channel 4 called Grand DNA. And for the first time in a year and a half, I really laughed, like properly laughed. And I thought Mr. Cudworth was right. Every brain is different. Every brain repairs in a different way. There's a lot of emotional labour when you're a carer, because everybody wants you have to manage other people's emotions as well as your own. Everybody wants a happy story. No one necessarily wants the truth, right? So I'll be at a party and a comedian will come up to me and he'd be very nervous because he realises that he's on the cusp of a tricky conversation. And English people would sooner disembowel themselves like samurai than have a tricky conversation. But luckily, they're chatting to an Irish person who's genetically designed to never tell the truth and to be charming under the most extreme circumstances. I am captain of the SS Conversation, and it's all hands on deck. So they'll come up to me with panic blazing in their little English eyes. And they'll say, Mary, how's Simon doing? And I'll say, he's paralysed and in a wheelchair. And they'll go, oh my God, that's terrible. And I'll say, yes, but at least I got a show out of it. And we both laugh and the conversation moves on. Because I'm a saint and I make miracles happen.